The day started like any other. I was going through the motions, caught up in the rush of daily life. Little did I know, that ordinary day would become the most extraordinary of my existence. What happened to me was unlike anything I could have imagined. A moment that would not only change my perception of life and death but also awaken me to dimensions I had never considered. I don't recall the exact moment it began, but I remember feeling an intense pressure in my chest, as if my heart were struggling against an unseen force. My vision blurred, and sounds around me faded. The world seemed to tilt and spin until, finally, everything went dark. I was aware of my body lying still. But something was different. My awareness had shifted. I was no longer confined to the physical space I had always known. In an instant, I found myself floating above my body, looking down at the scene with startling clarity. I saw the familiar surroundings of my room, the mundane details of the furniture, the soft hum of a fan in the corner. But there was also something more. Colors appeared brighter, more vivid than I had ever seen. Sounds were clearer, almost musical in their resonance. It was as if the world had shed a layer of imperfection, revealing an underlying beauty I had never noticed. I felt no fear, only a profound sense of peace. My body, which had always been a source of aches, limitations, and vulnerabilities, was now a distant memory. The weight of physical existence had lifted, and I felt free, light, unburdened, and utterly content. For the first time, I understood what it meant to truly exist. Not as a collection of bones and flesh but as something far greater. As I hovered there, I noticed something else, a warm, radiant light in the distance. It wasn't like the light from a bulb or the sun, it was alive, pulsing with a sense of love and belonging. I felt drawn to it, as if it were calling me home. At the same time, I was acutely aware of the presence of others. Though I couldn't see them, I sensed they were nearby, observing me with gentle curiosity and care. The light grew brighter as I moved toward it, and with each step, or perhaps it was more of a glide, I felt layers of fear, regret, and doubt peeling away. It was as though the closer I came to the light, the more I was reminded of my true nature, the part of me that had always existed but had been obscured by the noise of daily life. I felt a deep connection to everything around me, as if the boundaries between myself and the universe were dissolving. When I finally reached the light, it enveloped me in its warmth. It was an embrace without arms, a reassurance that I was safe, loved, and whole. In that moment, I understood that this was not an end but a beginning. I was not alone. I was part of something infinite, something eternal. The light seemed to communicate with me, not in words but in feelings and impressions. It conveyed a sense of purpose, a reminder that life, with all its struggles and joys, was deeply meaningful. Then, as suddenly as I had been drawn into the light, I found myself in another place. It was a realm unlike anything I had ever experienced. The colors were indescribable, beyond the spectrum I had known. The air was filled with a harmonious melody, a sound that seemed to resonate with my very being. The landscape was vast and awe-inspiring, fields of vibrant flowers that swayed gently without a breeze, rivers that shimmered like liquid crystal, and a sky that seemed to stretch endlessly, painted with hues I couldn't name. As I stood there, I felt the presence of others more strongly. Figures began to emerge from the light, each one radiating a unique energy. They didn't speak, yet I understood them perfectly. They weren't strangers, they felt familiar, as if I had known them forever. Some appeared to be loved ones who had passed on, their faces glowing with recognition and joy. Others seemed to be guides or beings of light, their purpose to help me navigate this new dimension. One of the beings stepped forward, and I felt an immediate connection. This presence was gentle yet powerful, radiating wisdom and compassion. Without speaking, it conveyed to me that I was in a place of learning and understanding, a space where the truths of existence could be revealed. I was shown images and impressions, snapshots of my life, not just as a series of events but as a tapestry of choices, connections, and experiences. In this review of my life, I saw not only what I had done but also how my actions had impacted others. Moments I had dismissed as insignificant were illuminated as profound. A kind word to a stranger, a gesture of forgiveness, a small act of love. These were the threads that wove the most beautiful parts of my tapestry. At the same time, I was shown the consequences of my harsher words and unkind actions. But there was no judgment, only a gentle invitation to learn and grow. As the life review continued, I was struck by the interconnectedness of everything. Every choice, every action, created ripples that extended far beyond what I could see. I realized that the most important moments were not the grand achievements or milestones but the times when I had acted out of love, compassion, and authenticity. The being of light seemed to smile at this realization, as if encouraging me to carry this understanding forward. I was then taken to another part of this realm, where I saw what appeared to be a vast network of light and energy. It was as if the entire universe was woven together by threads of love, each one pulsating with life. I understood that these threads represented connections between people, between ideas, between every living thing. I felt humbled and honored to be a part of this intricate, beautiful design. Just as I was beginning to feel at home in this realm, I sensed a shift. The light around me began to dim, and I felt a gentle tug pulling me back. The beings of light surrounded me, their presence a comforting reminder that I was not alone. Though I longed to stay, I understood that my time here was not yet complete. There was more for me to do, more for me to learn, and more for me to share. As the light faded, I found myself once again hovering above my body. The sense of peace remained, but I felt the weight of physical existence beginning to return. Slowly, I re-entered my body, gasping for air as I regained consciousness. The world around me felt different, both familiar and foreign, as if I were seeing it for the first time. The clarity I had experienced in the other realm lingered, and I knew that I could never see life the same way again. In that moment, I made a silent promise to carry the lessons I had learned into every aspect of my life, to live with love and purpose, and to honor the interconnectedness of all things. What I had experienced was not just a glimpse of what lies beyond, it was a reminder of the beauty and meaning that exists in the here and now. As I regained full awareness of my surroundings, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for being back in my body. Yet, the weight of my physical form was palpable. It was as if the freedom I had experienced in the other realm made my return to the constraints of earthly existence feel heavier. The clarity I had in that higher dimension remained vivid in my mind, and I knew that my journey there had not been without purpose. I had been sent back for a reason, though what exactly that reason was remained unclear. The first days after my experience were surreal. Everything around me seemed to vibrate with a newfound intensity. Colors appeared brighter, sounds carried a deeper resonance, and even the smallest details of the world seemed imbued with meaning. I felt as though I had been given a second chance to truly see and appreciate life. Yet, alongside this heightened perception came a sense of responsibility, a feeling that I was now tasked with living differently, more intentionally. I began to notice the threads of connection between myself and others in ways I hadn't before. Conversations took on a new depth, as if I could sense the emotions and unspoken truths behind the words of those I spoke with. People seemed to gravitate toward me, sharing their struggles and joys. I found myself listening more intently, offering comfort and understanding where I could. It was as if my experience had opened a door not just to another realm but to the hearts of those around me. One of the most profound realizations I carried back with me was the importance of love, not just as an emotion but as a force that binds everything together. In the other realm, love had been the very fabric of existence, the energy that connected every being and every moment. Returning to Earth, I saw how easily this truth could be forgotten amidst the distractions and struggles of daily life. I resolved to live in a way that honored this love, to let it guide my actions and interactions. This newfound perspective wasn't without its challenges. The peace and clarity I had felt in the other realm often clashed with the noise and chaos of the world around me. There were moments when I felt frustrated, even overwhelmed, by the disconnect between what I had experienced and the reality I now faced. Yet, in those moments, I reminded myself of the lessons I had learned, that even the smallest acts of kindness and compassion could create ripples of change. One of the first tests of this resolve came when I reconnected with a friend I had grown distant from. Our relationship had been strained by misunderstandings and unspoken resentments. Before my experience, I might have avoided the discomfort of addressing these issues. But now, I saw this as an opportunity to practice what I had learned. I reached out to my friend, apologizing for my part in the rift and expressing a desire to mend our relationship. To my surprise, they responded with warmth and a willingness to do the same. It was a small but powerful reminder of how love, when chosen intentionally, could heal even the deepest wounds. As time went on, I began to feel a pull toward sharing my experience with others. At first, I was hesitant. How could I put something so profound into words? Would people even believe me? But the more I reflected on what I had seen and felt, the more I realized that my story wasn't just for me. It was meant to inspire and uplift others, to remind them of the beauty and interconnectedness of life. The first time I shared my story was with a close family member. Sitting at the kitchen table, I recounted the details of my journey, the light, the beings of love, the life review that had shown me the impact of my actions. They listened intently, their eyes brimming with tears by the time I finished. "That's beautiful," they said. "It makes me think about how I'm living my own life." Their response gave me the courage to share my experience more widely. Over the months that followed, I found myself speaking about my journey in various settings, small gatherings, community events, even one-on-one conversations with strangers. Each time, I noticed a common thread in people's reactions, a longing for hope, connection, and meaning. Many shared their own stories of near-death experiences, spiritual awakenings, or moments of profound clarity. Others simply expressed gratitude for being reminded of life's beauty and purpose. One conversation that stood out to me was with an elderly woman at a local nursing home. She had recently lost her husband of over 50 years and was struggling with grief and loneliness. As I shared my experience, she nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with tears. "You've given me hope," she said softly. "Hope that he's in a place of peace and that I'll see him again one day." Her words stayed with me, a poignant reminder of the power of sharing not just our stories but the love and hope that underpin them. As I continued to integrate my experience into daily life, I found myself drawn to practices that deepened my connection to the divine. Prayer became a cornerstone of my days, not as a formal ritual but as an ongoing conversation with the presence I had encountered in the other realm. Meditation helped me quiet the noise of the world and reconnect with the sense of peace I had felt beyond the veil. These practices grounded me, helping me navigate the challenges of life with grace and clarity. I also became more attuned to the small moments of beauty and connection that often go unnoticed. A kind smile from a stranger, the sound of birdsong at dawn, the warmth of sunlight on my skin. Each of these became a reminder of the love and interconnectedness I had experienced. I began to see these moments as glimpses of the divine, invitations to live with gratitude and awareness. One of the most unexpected outcomes of my experience was the way it deepened my relationships. With my family, I found a newfound appreciation for the moments we shared, whether they were filled with laughter or challenges. With friends, I sought to be more present and supportive, valuing our connections as precious threads in the tapestry of life. Even with strangers, I approached interactions with an openness and kindness that often led to surprising and meaningful exchanges. Through it all, I carried the understanding that my experience was not an escape from life but an invitation to live more fully. The realm I had visited was a reminder of what was possible. A vision of a world shaped by love, compassion, and unity. While I longed to return to that place one day, I knew that my purpose now was to bring a piece of it into the here and now. As I moved forward, I felt a growing sense of clarity about my purpose. It wasn't about grand achievements or dramatic changes. It was about the small, everyday choices to live with love, to act with kindness, and to honor the interconnectedness of all things. It was about being a light in the world, however small, and trusting that even the tiniest flicker could illuminate the darkness. The more time passed since my experience, the more I noticed the subtleties of life that often go unnoticed. The realization that we are all connected, a truth I had seen so vividly in the other realm, became the lens through which I viewed everything. Each interaction, no matter how small, was an opportunity to honor the threads of connection that bind us together. It wasn't just about grand gestures or profound moments. It was about the everyday choices that ripple outward in ways we may never fully understand. One morning, as I walked through a local park, I noticed a small act of kindness that resonated deeply. A child, no older than 6 or 7, was struggling to pick up an ice cream cone they had dropped. Before I could step in to help, a teenage boy passing by stopped, crouched down, and handed the child a new cone he had just bought for himself. The child's face lit up with joy, and the boy smiled before walking away. It was a simple gesture, but it encapsulated the power of compassion and how a small moment can create ripples of happiness. This reinforced a lesson I had seen during my life review in the other realm. I had been shown the impact of my own actions, not just the obvious or significant ones but also the seemingly inconsequential moments. A smile to a stranger, a kind word to a friend, or a moment of patience in a frustrating situation, all of these carried weight. I realized that the energy we put into the world, whether positive or negative, contributes to the greater whole. With this understanding, I became more intentional in my interactions. I made a conscious effort to approach people with kindness, to listen more deeply, and to be fully present in each moment. At first, it was challenging to maintain this awareness amidst the busyness of life. There were times when I faltered, moments when frustration or distraction pulled me away from my resolve, but each time, I returned to the lessons of the other realm, reminding myself that every moment is an opportunity to choose love. One of the most profound changes was in how I viewed conflict. Before my experience, I often found myself caught in the cycle of defensiveness or blame when disagreements arose. But now, I saw conflict as an opportunity for growth and understanding. Instead of reacting out of anger or frustration, I tried to approach these situations with empathy and curiosity. This wasn't always easy, but it brought a sense of peace to my relationships that I hadn't experienced before. One particular instance stands out. A close friend and I had a disagreement over a decision we were making together. The old me might have dug in my heels, determined to prove I was right, but instead, I took a step back and listened, not just to their words but to the emotions beneath them. In doing so, I realized that their concerns weren't about the decision itself but about feeling unheard and unvalued. By acknowledging their feelings and expressing my own with vulnerability, we were able to resolve the conflict in a way that strengthened our bond. It was a powerful reminder of the transformative power of empathy and the importance of seeing each other fully. As I embraced this new way of living, I began to notice a change in how others responded to me. People seemed more open, more willing to share their own stories and struggles. Strangers would strike up conversations, drawn by a sense of trust they couldn't quite explain. Friends confided in me about challenges they were facing, and I found myself in a position to offer support and encouragement. These moments weren't about solving their problems or giving advice, they were about being present, holding space, and reminding them that they weren't alone. One day, I found myself volunteering at a community event aimed at supporting families in need. The work was simple, packing boxes of food and supplies, but the connections I made with others were profound. A young mother approached me, her toddler in tow, and shared how much the support meant to her. "It's not just the food," she said, "it's knowing that people care, that we're not invisible." Her words struck a chord, reminding me that even the smallest acts of kindness can affirm someone's worth and dignity. These experiences deepened my understanding of the interconnectedness I had witnessed in the other realm. It wasn't just about the connections we could see or the immediate effects of our actions. It was about the unseen threads that link us all, the ways our choices ripple outward into the lives of others. This understanding gave me a sense of responsibility but also a sense of hope. It reminded me that even in a world that often feels divided, our actions have the power to weave a tapestry of love and unity. Another significant realization was the importance of being present. In the other realm, time had felt fluid, almost irrelevant, yet every moment carried a sense of fullness and meaning. Returning to the constraints of earthly time, I struggled at first to reconcile this with the demands of daily life. But gradually, I learned to approach each moment with the same sense of presence and intention I had felt in the other realm. This shift in perspective transformed even the most mundane aspects of life. Washing dishes became an opportunity for mindfulness, a chance to reflect on gratitude for the food that had been shared. Waiting in line at the grocery store became a moment to observe the humanity around me. To smile at a stranger or silently wish them well. These small shifts didn't change the world, but they changed the way I experienced it. As I continued to integrate these lessons into my life, I found myself drawn to nature in a way I hadn't been before. The natural world, with its rhythms and cycles, felt like a reflection of the interconnectedness I had seen. Sitting by a river, watching the water flow over rocks, I was reminded of how every drop contributes to the whole, each one carrying its own story yet inseparable from the larger current. Walking through a forest, I marveled at the way the trees supported one another, their roots intertwined beneath the surface in a silent network of connection. These moments of connection with nature became a source of solace and inspiration. They reminded me that even when life felt overwhelming or chaotic, there was a greater order at work, a harmony that underpinned everything. This understanding gave me strength during challenging times, anchoring me in the knowledge that I was part of something far greater than myself. One evening, as I watched the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson, I felt a familiar sense of peace wash over me. It was the same peace I had felt in the other realm. The same reminder that life, with all its beauty and imperfection, was deeply meaningful. In that moment, I felt a profound gratitude, not just for my experience beyond the veil but for the chance to return and live out the lessons I had learned. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, moments of doubt or difficulty that would test my resolve, but I also knew that I carried within me the tools to face them, the understanding of interconnectedness, the power of love and compassion, and the ability to find meaning in even the smallest moments. These lessons were not just gifts from the other realm. They were a blueprint for how to live fully and authentically in this one. As I settled into this new way of seeing and living, challenges began to arise. They weren't extraordinary events but rather the ordinary trials of life, the things we all face at one point or another. Yet, these moments took on new significance in light of the lessons I had carried back from the other realm. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, I began to see them as opportunities for growth, reflection, and transformation. One of the first significant challenges came in the form of an old wound, something I had buried deep within myself and avoided confronting for years. A strained relationship with a family member had left scars that shaped how I saw myself and others. Before my experience, I had avoided addressing the pain, convincing myself that time would heal it. But now, I realized that healing required more than just waiting, it required action, vulnerability, and love. I decided to reach out to this family member. It wasn't easy. The memories of past arguments and unresolved hurt surfaced, and part of me wanted to retreat into the safety of avoidance. But I remembered what I had seen during my life review, that love and forgiveness had the power to mend even the deepest wounds. With this in mind, I approached the conversation with openness and humility. At first, it was awkward. We danced around the heart of the issue, both of us cautious and unsure. But as the conversation unfolded, something shifted. I shared my feelings honestly, acknowledging my own shortcomings and expressing a desire to rebuild our relationship. To my surprise, they responded with the same openness. We began to unpack years of misunderstandings, peeling back the layers of hurt to reveal the love that had always been there. By the end of that conversation, I felt a sense of relief and connection that I hadn't thought possible. This experience taught me that healing isn't about erasing the past but about transforming it. The scars remain, but they become reminders of the strength and resilience that come from choosing love over fear. It also reminded me that forgiveness is as much for ourselves as it is for others. By letting go of resentment, we free ourselves to live more fully and authentically. Another challenge came in the form of doubt. Despite the clarity and peace I had felt in the other realm, there were moments when the noise of the world made me question what I had experienced. The demands of daily life, the opinions of others, and the distractions of technology all threatened to pull me away from the deeper truths I had come to understand. There were times when I wondered if it had all been real or if it was just a product of my imagination. In these moments of doubt, I turned to the practices that had anchored me since my return: prayer, meditation, and reflection. I found solace in the quiet moments of stillness, where the presence I had felt in the other realm seemed to whisper reminders of love and purpose. I also sought out the company of others who shared similar experiences or perspectives. Their stories reinforced my own and reminded me that I was not alone on this journey. One particularly meaningful encounter was with a woman I met at a community gathering. She had experienced her own near-death experience years earlier and spoke about the challenges of integrating those lessons into everyday life. As we shared our stories, I felt a profound sense of connection and understanding. "It's not about holding onto the experience," she said, "but about living out the lessons it taught you. That's how you honor it." Her words stayed with me, guiding me through moments when the world felt overwhelming or the clarity of my experience seemed distant. They reminded me that the lessons weren't just for extraordinary moments but for the ordinary ones as well, for the times when I was stuck in traffic, running errands, or navigating conflicts at work. Every moment, no matter how mundane, was an opportunity to choose love, kindness, and connection. Work became another area where I applied these lessons. Before my experience, I had seen my job as a means to an end, a way to pay bills and achieve personal goals. But now, I began to see it as an extension of my purpose. Each interaction with colleagues, clients, or customers became a chance to practice the principles of compassion and presence. I noticed how small gestures, a genuine smile, a kind word, or a moment of patience, could transform the energy of a room and foster a sense of connection. One day, a coworker confided in me about a personal struggle they were facing. They had been dealing with anxiety and felt overwhelmed by the pressures of work and life. As they spoke, I listened intently, offering encouragement and sharing some of the insights I had gained from my experience. By the end of our conversation, they expressed gratitude for being heard and supported. It was a reminder of how powerful it can be to simply hold space for someone, to let them know they are not alone. As I navigated these challenges, I began to see how they were shaping me into a more compassionate and resilient person. Each obstacle was an invitation to practice the lessons I had learned, to approach life with love, to see others as interconnected parts of the same whole, and to find meaning in every experience. These weren't abstract ideals but practical tools that helped me navigate the complexities of life with grace and purpose. One of the most profound realizations was that growth often comes through discomfort. The moments that stretched me, that pushed me beyond my comfort zone, were the ones that brought the greatest transformation. Whether it was having difficult conversations, confronting my own fears, or stepping into unfamiliar territory, I found that each challenge carried within it the seeds of growth. The key was to approach these moments with curiosity and openness, trusting that they were part of a larger journey. This perspective also helped me reframe failure. Before my experience, I had often viewed failure as something to avoid at all costs, a sign of inadequacy or weakness. But now, I saw it as a natural and necessary part of growth. Each misstep was an opportunity to learn, to adjust, and to move forward with greater clarity. This shift in mindset gave me the freedom to take risks and to embrace life's uncertainties with a sense of adventure. Through it all, I carried the memory of the other realm as a source of strength and inspiration. The interconnectedness I had seen, the love that had enveloped me, and the lessons I had learned, they were not just distant memories but living truths that guided me every day. They reminded me that life is not about avoiding challenges but about engaging with them fully, with an open heart and a resilient spirit. As I continued on this journey, I began to understand that the purpose of my experience was not just to change my own life but to ripple outward, touching the lives of others in ways both seen and unseen. Whether through a kind word, a moment of patience, or a simple act of service, I was contributing to the greater tapestry of love and connection that binds us all. And in doing so, I was honoring the lessons of the other realm, living out the truth that life, in all its complexity, is a sacred and beautiful journey. As the months passed, the lessons from my near-death experience became an intrinsic part of how I approached the world. It wasn't just about personal growth. I felt a deep and undeniable call to serve others. The love and interconnectedness I had witnessed in the other realm compelled me to reflect that same love outward, to be a force for good in a world often weighed down by hardship and division. At first, I wasn't sure what form this service would take. The idea of making a significant impact felt overwhelming, even daunting. But then I remembered one of the most profound insights from my life review, that even the smallest actions, when done with love, carry immense power. With that in mind, I began to approach service not as a monumental undertaking but as a series of small, intentional choices. One of the first opportunities came unexpectedly. I was at the grocery store, standing in line behind an elderly woman who seemed flustered as she searched through her bag for the exact change. The people in line behind us shifted impatiently, some sighing audibly. In that moment, I felt a wave of compassion. I smiled at her, stepped forward, and offered to cover the difference. Her face softened, and she thanked me repeatedly, her relief palpable. It was such a small gesture, yet it felt like an act of profound connection, a reminder that kindness could transform even the simplest moments. These experiences began to multiply. I started volunteering at a local community center, helping to organize food drives and outreach programs for families in need. At first, I thought my role would be limited to logistics, packing boxes, coordinating donations, and making phone calls. But as I spent more time with the people we were serving, I realized that my presence alone could make a difference. Listening to their stories, sharing in their struggles, and offering encouragement became as important as the material support we provided. One conversation that stood out to me was with a young mother named Elena. She had recently lost her job and was struggling to provide for her 2 children. As we talked, she shared her feelings of frustration and hopelessness. "It's hard to believe things will get better," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. I told her about my experience, about the love and interconnectedness I had seen in the other realm. "You're not alone in this," I said. "Even when things feel impossible, there's a greater plan at work. You are deeply loved, and there's always hope." Her tears turned to a quiet smile, and she thanked me for listening. That moment reminded me of the power of simply being present for someone, of holding space for their pain and offering a glimmer of hope. My desire to serve extended into my professional life as well. I began to see my work not just as a way to earn a living but as an opportunity to contribute to the greater good. Whether it was supporting a colleague, resolving a conflict with empathy, or finding creative ways to solve problems, I approached each task with a sense of purpose. I also became more attuned to the struggles of those around me, noticing when someone seemed stressed or overwhelmed and offering help whenever I could. One day, a coworker approached me and said, "You're always so calm and positive. How do you do it?" I smiled, unsure how to explain the shift that had taken place within me. "I guess I just try to focus on what really matters," I said. "Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and every interaction is a chance to show kindness." They nodded thoughtfully, and I could see that my words had struck a chord. It was another reminder of how our energy and intentions can ripple outward, influencing others in ways we may never fully realize. Beyond these everyday acts of service, I also felt drawn to explore larger projects that aligned with my values. I joined a group focused on environmental restoration, planting trees and cleaning up local parks. Being in nature, surrounded by the beauty and harmony of the natural world, felt like a sacred act of connection. It reminded me of the interwoven network of light and love I had seen in the other realm, and I felt honored to contribute to its preservation. These efforts brought me into contact with people from diverse backgrounds, each with their own stories and struggles. One volunteer, an older man named Victor, shared how his work with the group had helped him cope with the loss of his wife. "This gives me purpose," he said, looking out at the forest we were replanting. "It reminds me that life goes on, that there's always something worth fighting for." His words resonated deeply, a testament to the healing power of purpose and connection. Amidst all these efforts, I learned an important lesson. Service is not about perfection. There were days when I felt tired, overwhelmed, or unsure of my impact. There were times when I made mistakes or fell short of my own expectations. But I realized that what mattered most was the intention behind my actions, the commitment to show up, to give my best, and to approach each moment with love and humility. This understanding freed me from the pressure of trying to do everything or be everything for everyone. Instead, I focused on being present and doing what I could, trusting that even the smallest acts of service would contribute to the greater whole. It also reminded me to practice self-compassion, to recognize that my own well-being was just as important as the well-being of those I sought to help. By taking care of myself, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I was better equipped to show up for others. As I reflected on these experiences, I felt a growing sense of alignment between my inner and outer worlds. The love and interconnectedness I had witnessed in the other realm were no longer just abstract concepts, they were lived realities. Woven into the fabric of my daily life, each act of service, no matter how small, was a way of embodying those truths and contributing to the collective good. One evening, as I sat by the window watching the sunset, I thought about the people whose lives had touched mine, the elderly woman at the grocery store, Elena at the community center, Victor in the forest, and countless others. I realized that each of these connections was a thread in the tapestry of life. A reminder that we are all part of something much greater than ourselves. This understanding filled me with a sense of purpose and gratitude, a deep knowing that my journey was not just my own but a shared path of love, growth, and transformation. I also began to see how my actions inspired others. Friends and family started reaching out to share how my example had encouraged them to be more intentional in their own lives. Some volunteered for the first time, others mended broken relationships, and a few even shared their own experiences of connection and purpose. It was humbling to see how the ripples of my choices extended beyond what I could see. A testament to the profound impact of living with love and intention. As the stars began to emerge in the night sky, I felt a quiet peace settle over me. I knew that my journey was far from over, that there would be more challenges and lessons ahead. But I also knew that I was not alone, that the love and light I had experienced in the other realm were always with me, guiding me forward. And in that moment, I made a silent promise to continue serving, to continue learning, and to continue living in a way that honored the interconnectedness of all things. As I continued to embrace a life guided by the lessons from my near-death experience, I began to encounter deeper layers of my own humanity. Service and connection had become central to my daily life, but there was another aspect of my journey that called for attention: vulnerability. The light and love I had experienced in the other realm were transformative. Yet they also illuminated areas of myself that I had avoided or suppressed: pain, fear, and insecurities I had carried for years. Vulnerability had always been difficult for me. Like many, I had learned to armor myself against the world, hiding my fears and struggles behind a facade of strength and competence. But now, I saw that this armor was not serving me, it was isolating me. In the other realm, I had experienced complete acceptance, a love that knew every part of me and embraced me fully. That love had shown me that true strength lies not in hiding our wounds but in allowing them to be seen, in trusting others to meet us with compassion. This realization came to life one evening during a gathering with close friends. We were sitting around a fire, sharing stories and reflecting on the past year. As the conversation deepened, one friend opened up about their struggles with anxiety and how it had impacted their relationships. Their vulnerability was raw and honest, and it created a space for others to share their own challenges. I felt a pull to speak but hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. Finally, I took a deep breath and shared a part of my journey I had rarely spoken about: the fear and doubt I had experienced after returning from the other realm. The moments when I had questioned my own worth and purpose. As I spoke, I felt a mixture of fear and relief, as if a weight I had been carrying was being lifted. My friends listened intently, their faces reflecting understanding and empathy. When I finished, one of them said, "Thank you for sharing that. It helps to know I'm not alone." In that moment, I realized that vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a bridge. By sharing our struggles and imperfections, we create connections that remind us of our shared humanity. It is in these moments of openness that we find the courage to heal and grow, both individually and collectively. This understanding began to shape how I approached my relationships. I made a conscious effort to show up as my authentic self, even when it felt uncomfortable. With family, I shared more about my thoughts and feelings, rather than retreating into silence during difficult conversations. With friends, I allowed myself to ask for help when I needed it, trusting that they would meet me with the same kindness I sought to offer them. And with strangers, I practiced being present and open, recognizing that every interaction held the potential for connection. One of the most transformative experiences came when I joined a support group focused on personal growth and healing. At first, I was hesitant to participate, The idea of sharing my innermost thoughts and experiences with a group of strangers felt daunting. But as I listened to others speak, I was struck by the courage it took to lay their hearts bare. Their stories were diverse: grief, addiction, loss, and redemption. But each one carried a thread of resilience and hope. When it was my turn to speak, I shared my experience of the other realm and the ways it had changed me. I talked about the love I had felt, the interconnectedness I had seen, and the challenges of integrating those lessons into my daily life. As I spoke, I felt the same peace I had experienced in the presence of the light. The group responded with warmth and understanding, their words and gestures affirming that I was seen and valued. It was a reminder that vulnerability is not just an act of courage, it is an invitation to others to meet us where we are. These experiences deepened my understanding of the interconnectedness I had witnessed in the other realm. I saw how our stories, struggles, and triumphs are woven together, creating a collective tapestry of human experience. Each thread, no matter how frayed or imperfect, contributes to the beauty of the whole. By sharing our truths, we strengthen those connections and remind one another of the light that resides within us all. This newfound embrace of vulnerability also transformed how I approached challenges. Instead of seeing difficulties as burdens to bear alone, I began to view them as opportunities to reach out and connect. One such challenge arose when a health issue forced me to take a step back from my usual activities. At first, I resisted the idea of slowing down, feeling frustrated by my limitations. But as I shared my concerns with loved ones, I was met with support and encouragement. Their kindness reminded me that it was okay to lean on others. That asking for help was not a sign of weakness but a recognition of our shared humanity. In these moments, I also turned to the practices that had become anchors in my life: prayer, meditation, and reflection. They helped me reconnect with the presence I had felt in the other realm, reminding me that I was never truly alone. One evening, as I sat in quiet meditation, I felt a familiar warmth envelop me. It was the same love I had experienced in the presence of the light, a love that knew every part of me and embraced me completely. In that moment, I understood that vulnerability was not just about connecting with others, it was also about being honest with myself and with the divine. This realization brought a sense of freedom and peace. I no longer felt the need to hide my imperfections or pretend to have it all together. Instead, I saw my humanity as a gift, a reflection of the divine spark within me. This shift in perspective allowed me to approach life with greater compassion, both for myself and for others. It reminded me that we are all works in progress, each of us navigating our own journeys with courage and grace. As I continued to integrate these lessons, I noticed a ripple effect in my relationships. Friends and family began to open up more, sharing their own fears and dreams in ways they hadn't before. Strangers I met seemed drawn to share their stories, creating moments of connection that felt both spontaneous and deeply meaningful. It was as if my willingness to embrace vulnerability had created a space for others to do the same, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Through it all, I carried the memory of the other realm as a source of strength and inspiration. The light I had encountered, the love that had enveloped me, and the interconnectedness I had witnessed, they were not just fleeting experiences but enduring truths that continued to guide me. They reminded me that vulnerability is not a destination but a practice, a way of being that allows us to live more fully and authentically. As I looked back on these moments, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the challenges that had shaped me, for the connections that had sustained me, and for the love that had carried me through it all. I knew that the journey was far from over, that there would be more lessons to learn and more opportunities to grow. But I also knew that I was not walking this path alone, that in every moment of vulnerability, connection, and love, I was part of something far greater than myself. As I embraced vulnerability and allowed my life to reflect the lessons of love and interconnectedness from the other realm, I discovered that not every moment would feel illuminated by the peace and clarity I had once experienced. Life's challenges, uncertainties, and even moments of despair continued to arise. But now, they were framed differently, not as punishments or insurmountable obstacles, but as integral parts of a greater tapestry I was only beginning to understand. One of the darker periods came unexpectedly. As challenges often do, A close friend of mine, someone who had been a source of support and joy in my life, began to pull away. At first, it seemed like a temporary shift, an unusually busy schedule, or a minor misunderstanding. But over time, their absence became more pronounced. Messages went unanswered, plans fell through, and I found myself grappling with feelings of rejection and confusion. Before my near-death experience, I might have reacted with frustration or even resentment. But now, I felt an urge to approach the situation with compassion. Instead of assuming the worst or retreating into my own hurt, I reached out to them with an open heart. I asked if they were okay, expressing my concern without judgment. Their response revealed struggles I hadn't known they were facing, feelings of isolation, burnout, and doubt that had led them to withdraw from many of their relationships. Not just ours. This exchange reminded me of a truth I had seen during my life review, that everyone carries unseen burdens. In the other realm, I had witnessed how even the most outwardly confident or joyful people often navigated challenges hidden from view. With this in mind, I approached my friend with patience and understanding. I let them know they were not alone, offering support without pressuring them to engage on my timeline. Slowly, our connection began to heal, and I realized that love often requires us to hold space for others, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. During this time, I also faced a personal challenge that tested my resolve to live with intention and faith. I had taken on a new project at work, one that aligned deeply with my values but also pushed me far outside my comfort zone. The scope of the project was daunting, and I found myself doubting whether I had the skills or stamina to see it through. Old fears of inadequacy resurfaced, threatening to overshadow the confidence I had cultivated. In moments of doubt, I turned to the practices that had become my lifelines: prayer and meditation. One evening, as I sat in quiet reflection, I felt the familiar warmth of the presence I had encountered in the other realm. It was a reminder that I was never truly alone, that the same love and support that had carried me beyond the veil was available to me now. In that moment, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, not because I believed I would succeed without challenges, but because I understood that even the challenges were meaningful. I also reached out to trusted mentors and colleagues, sharing my concerns and seeking their guidance. Their encouragement reminded me that vulnerability is not a weakness but a strength, a willingness to acknowledge our limits and invite others into our journey. With their support, I was able to approach the project with a balance of determination and humility, celebrating small victories along the way and learning from setbacks. This period of struggle deepened my appreciation for the interconnectedness I had witnessed in the other realm. I saw how every challenge, no matter how isolating it might feel, was an opportunity to draw closer to others and to the divine. Whether through asking for help, offering support, or simply being present with my own emotions, I was reminded that we are never truly separate from the web of love and connection that binds us all. One of the most transformative lessons during this time came from an unexpected source: a child I met during a volunteer event at a local shelter. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old, yet her spirit radiated a wisdom and resilience that left me in awe. As we painted together, she shared stories about her family, her dreams of becoming an artist, and the joy she found in simple things like drawing or playing outside. At one point, she looked up at me and said, "Sometimes, when things are hard, I just imagine a little light in my heart. I think about it getting brighter and brighter until it makes all the bad stuff not so scary." Her words struck me deeply, reminding me of the light I had experienced in the other realm, the light that had embraced me and reminded me of my true nature. It was a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, we carry within us a source of light that cannot be extinguished. Inspired by her perspective, I began to incorporate this imagery into my own moments of struggle. When fear or doubt threatened to overwhelm me, I closed my eyes and imagined the light within me growing brighter, filling every corner of my being with warmth and love. This simple practice brought me a sense of peace and strength, a reminder that the light I had encountered beyond the veil was also present within me. Another source of light during this time came from the connections I had built with others. Friends, family, and even strangers became mirrors of the love and support I had experienced in the other realm. Their encouragement, laughter, and shared moments of vulnerability reminded me that we are all part of a larger whole, each of us contributing to the light that sustains us. As I navigated these challenges, I also began to reflect on the role of darkness in the journey of life. In the other realm, I had seen how even the most difficult experiences carried lessons and opportunities for growth. Now, I understood that the same was true on Earth. The moments of struggle and uncertainty were not obstacles to be avoided but invitations to deepen my understanding of myself and the world around me. One evening, as I walked along a quiet trail, I watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and indigo. The transition from day to night reminded me of the cycles of light and darkness that shape our lives. Just as the night holds its own beauty, the shimmer of stars, the quiet of the world at rest, so too do the challenges we face hold hidden gifts. It is in these moments of darkness that we discover the depth of our resilience, the strength of our connections, and the enduring presence of the light within us. Looking back on this period, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the challenges that had shaped me, for the people who had supported me, and for the lessons that had emerged from the darkness. I knew that the journey was ongoing, that there would be more moments of struggle and more opportunities to grow. But I also knew that I carried within me the tools to navigate whatever lay ahead, the light of love, the strength of connection, and the wisdom to embrace both the darkness and the dawn. As I journeyed further into living out the lessons of my near-death experience, I encountered a recurring theme that demanded my attention: forgiveness. While I had made significant strides in embracing love and connection, there were still areas of my life where old wounds lingered. These unhealed places, though often buried beneath the surface, subtly shaped my interactions and emotions, preventing me from fully embodying the peace and freedom I had experienced beyond the veil. Forgiveness, I realized, was not just about letting go of what others had done, it was also about releasing the weight I had been carrying. It was an act of self-liberation, a way of creating space for the light and love that were always available but often obscured by the shadows of resentment and pain. The most challenging relationship I faced was with my father. Growing up, our dynamic had been complicated, marked by moments of connection but also by misunderstandings and unmet expectations. Over the years, I had built a wall around my heart, convinced that it was safer to keep my distance than to risk reopening old wounds. But now, with the clarity of my experience, I saw that this wall wasn't protecting me, it was isolating me. One evening, as I sat in quiet reflection, I felt a nudge, a gentle but insistent pull to address this unresolved tension. I resisted at first, unsure of where to begin or how to navigate the complex emotions that surfaced. But the presence I had felt in the other realm reminded me that love and courage go hand in hand. With this in mind, I decided to take the first step. I reached out to my father, inviting him to meet for coffee. He seemed surprised but agreed without hesitation. As we sat across from each other in the bustling cafe, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I began by sharing my feelings, not as accusations but as honest reflections on how our past had shaped me. To my surprise, he listened intently, his expression softening with each word. When I finished, he took a deep breath and said, "I didn't realize how much you were carrying. I'm sorry." His words were simple, but they carried a weight that broke something open within me. For the first time, I saw him not just as my father but as a human being, flawed, vulnerable, and doing the best he could with what he had. In that moment, I felt the walls around my heart begin to crumble. What replaced them was a sense of compassion and understanding, a recognition that forgiveness was not about excusing the past but about choosing love in the present. This conversation marked the beginning of a transformation in our relationship. Over time, we rebuilt trust, not through grand gestures but through small, consistent acts of care and openness. Each interaction became an opportunity to deepen our connection, to heal the wounds that had kept us apart. While the process was not without its challenges, it was profoundly rewarding. I realized that forgiveness is not a single act but an ongoing practice, a commitment to seeing and loving others as they truly are. This experience also prompted me to reflect on the ways I needed to forgive myself. During my life review in the other realm, I had seen how harshly I judged myself, holding on to guilt and shame for mistakes I had made. while the presence of love in that space had shown me the futility of self-condemnation. Old habits of self-criticism sometimes resurfaced. I began to see that true forgiveness needed to extend inward, to the parts of myself that I had rejected or judged. One day, as I meditated on this, I recalled a moment from my past that had filled me with regret. I had said something hurtful to a friend in a moment of frustration. And though we had moved past it, the memory lingered like a thorn in my heart. As I sat with this memory, I imagined myself in the other realm, surrounded by the light and love I had experienced there. I envisioned that love enveloping not just my current self but also the version of me who had made that mistake. In doing so, I felt a wave of compassion and understanding for the person I had been, for the pain that had driven my actions, and for the growth that had come from that experience. This practice of self-forgiveness became a cornerstone of my journey. It allowed me to approach my imperfections with kindness, recognizing that they were not failures but opportunities to learn and evolve. It also helped me extend the same grace to others, seeing their actions not as reflections of their worth but as expressions of their own struggles and growth. As I embraced forgiveness more fully, I noticed a shift in how I experienced the world. Relationships that had felt strained began to soften, as if the act of releasing resentment created space for new possibilities. Conversations that once felt charged with tension became opportunities for connection and understanding. Even my interactions with strangers carried a new sense of openness and ease. One particularly moving moment occurred during a volunteer event at a homeless shelter. I was serving meals when a man approached me, his eyes weary but kind. As we talked, he shared a story of betrayal and loss that had led him to where he was. "It's hard to let go of the anger," he admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. I nodded, understanding his struggle on a deeply personal level. "Forgiveness isn't easy," I said, "but it's the only way to set yourself free. You deserve that freedom." His eyes glistened with tears, and he thanked me before returning to his seat. As I watched him eat, I felt a profound sense of connection, not just to him but to everyone around me. It was a reminder that forgiveness is not just an individual act, it is a collective healing. A way of weaving threads of love and understanding into the fabric of our shared humanity. As I continued to integrate forgiveness into my life, I saw its ripple effects everywhere. Friends reached out to mend old misunderstandings. Family members opened up in ways they hadn't before. And even my own inner dialogue became more compassionate. The lessons from the other realm, of love, interconnectedness, and the transformative power of grace, were no longer just ideas. They were living truths, reflected in the choices I made and the relationships I nurtured. Looking back, I saw that forgiveness had not only healed the wounds of the past but also created a foundation for a more joyful and authentic life. It had taught me to see the humanity in myself and others, to embrace imperfection as a natural part of growth, and to trust in the boundless capacity of love to transform even the deepest pain. Most of all, it had reminded me that the journey of life, with all its challenges and triumphs, is a sacred opportunity to live out the truth that we are all deeply, irrevocably connected. As forgiveness wove its healing threads into the fabric of my life, I began to reflect on the idea of purpose. My near-death experience had given me a profound sense of connection to something greater, a love and light that permeated everything. But as I navigated the complexities of daily life, I often wondered how to embody that sense of purpose in the here and now. What did it mean to live a meaningful life? Not just in extraordinary moments but in the ordinary rhythm of everyday existence? In the other realm, the idea of purpose had felt clear and expansive, a call to love, connect, and contribute to the greater good. On Earth, it felt more nuanced, entangled with responsibilities, challenges, and the unpredictability of life. At times, I found myself questioning whether I was doing enough, whether my actions truly reflected the lessons I had learned. But over time, I realized that purpose wasn't something to be achieved or measured, it was something to be lived. Moment by moment. One morning, as I prepared breakfast, I noticed the sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, casting a golden glow on the counter. It was a simple, unremarkable moment, yet it felt imbued with a quiet beauty. I realized then that purpose wasn't always found in grand gestures or monumental achievements. It was present in the small, Everyday acts of love and care. Preparing a meal, listening to a friend, tending to a garden. These were all expressions of purpose. Opportunities to bring light and connection into the world. This understanding brought a sense of peace and clarity. It freed me from the pressure of trying to find my purpose and allowed me to focus on living with intention and presence. Instead of seeking external validation or striving for perfection, I began to approach each day as an opportunity to align my actions with the love and interconnectedness I had experienced in the other realm. One of the most profound ways this manifested was through my relationships. I found myself listening more deeply to others, not just to their words but to the emotions and needs beneath them. I noticed how a kind word, a moment of patience, or a gesture of support could create ripples of connection and healing. These interactions, though small, carried a sense of meaning that reminded me of the interconnected web of life I had seen. One day, a coworker approached me with a problem they were facing at work. They were overwhelmed by a project and unsure of how to proceed. As we talked, I offered practical suggestions and encouraged them to take things one step at a time. By the end of our conversation, they looked visibly relieved. "Thank you," they said. "You always have a way of making things feel manageable." Their words stayed with me, a reminder that even the simplest acts of kindness can make a difference. This sense of purpose also extended to my community. I continued volunteering, finding joy and fulfillment in serving others. One initiative I joined focused on mentoring young people, helping them navigate the challenges of adolescence and discover their own paths. Working with these teens was both humbling and inspiring. They reminded me of the resilience and creativity of the human spirit, as well as the importance of offering guidance and support to those who might not yet see their own potential. One young man in particular, Marcus, left a lasting impression on me. He had been struggling with self-doubt and a lack of direction, unsure of what he wanted to do with his life. During one of our mentoring sessions, I shared some of the lessons from my experience, emphasizing the importance of love, connection, and staying open to the possibilities that life presents. Over time, I saw him begin to believe in himself, pursuing his interests with newfound confidence. Seeing his transformation reminded me of the ripple effects of living with purpose, of how our actions can inspire and uplift others in ways we may never fully see. As I continued to embrace purpose in the everyday, I noticed a shift in how I experienced challenges. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, I began to view them as opportunities for growth and connection. Whether it was navigating a difficult conversation, tackling a complex task, or facing moments of doubt, I approached each situation with curiosity and a willingness to learn. This perspective not only reduced stress but also deepened my appreciation for the journey of life. One particularly challenging moment came when a close friend faced a health crisis. Supporting them through their treatment was both emotionally and physically demanding, requiring patience, resilience, and a willingness to sit with uncertainty. Yet, it was also one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. Being present for them, whether through a late-night phone call, a meal delivered to their door, or simply sitting in silence together, taught me the power of showing up. Even when words or actions felt inadequate, it was a reminder that love isn't always about fixing or solving. Sometimes it's simply about being there. Through these experiences, I began to see purpose not as a destination but as a way of being. It wasn't about achieving a specific goal or living up to an ideal. It was about aligning my actions with the truth I had seen in the other realm. It was about choosing love, connection, and presence in each moment, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary it might seem. This perspective also helped me embrace the unpredictability of life. Before my near-death experience, I often felt a need to control outcomes, to plan and predict every step of the way. But now, I understood that life's twists and turns were part of a greater tapestry, one that I might not always see but could trust. This trust allowed me to approach the unknown with openness and curiosity, seeing it not as a threat but as an invitation to grow. One evening, as I walked along the shoreline of a nearby lake, I watched the waves ripple against the sand, each one unique yet part of the same rhythm. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of gold and rose, and I felt a deep sense of peace. It was a reminder that purpose is not about the waves themselves but about the ocean, the vast, interconnected whole of which we are all a part. In that moment, I made a silent commitment to continue living with intention, to find purpose in the small and the grand, and to trust that each act of love and connection contributes to the greater good. It wasn't about perfection or certainty, it was about showing up. Again and again, with an open heart and a willingness to embrace the beauty and complexity of life. As I turned to walk back home, I felt a quiet joy, a sense of alignment between the lessons of the other realm and the life I was living here. I knew there would be more challenges and more lessons ahead, but I also knew that purpose was not something to be found, it was something to be lived. One moment at a time, and in that realization, I found a sense of peace that carried me forward, into the unknown, with gratitude and hope. As I reflected on my journey, I realized how far I had come since my near-death experience. Each lesson I had learned in the other realm, about love, forgiveness, interconnectedness, and purpose, had gradually become woven into the fabric of my daily life. Yet, I also understood that the journey was ongoing, a continuous process of growth, discovery, and transformation. One of the most profound lessons that remained with me was the idea of the eternal tapestry. In the other realm, I had seen how every action, every choice, every connection contributed to a larger whole, a vast, intricate web of light and love that spanned dimensions and time. Here on Earth, I could only glimpse fragments of that tapestry, but I trusted in its existence. This trust became a guiding principle, helping me navigate the uncertainties and complexities of life with grace. The most meaningful moments often came unexpectedly, in the small and quiet interactions that seemed unremarkable at first glance. One such moment occurred during a visit to a local nursing home, where I had begun volunteering. I spent time with residents, listening to their stories and offering companionship. One woman, Eleanor, stood out to me. She was in her late 80s, sharp-witted but reserved, often sitting quietly by herself. One afternoon, as I sat with her, I noticed a small, worn photo album on the table beside her. Curious, I asked if she would share some of the memories it held. At first, she hesitated, but then she opened the album and began to speak. Her stories unfolded like chapters in a novel, tales of love, loss, adventure, and resilience. As she shared, her face lit up, and I saw a glimpse of the vibrant, determined woman she had been in her younger years. When she finished, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "I hadn't looked at these photos in years. It's good to remember who I was, and who I still am." Her words stayed with me, a reminder of the power of presence and listening. In that moment, I felt the threads of the eternal tapestry weaving between us, connecting our lives in a way that was both profound and humbling. These moments of connection extended beyond my personal relationships. I began to notice how small acts of kindness and intention rippled outward, creating effects I might never fully see. Holding the door for a stranger, offering a word of encouragement, or even a smile. Each act felt like a thread in the tapestry, contributing to something far greater than myself. It was a reminder that every choice matters, that each of us has the power to shape the world through our actions. As I continued to explore this interconnectedness, I found myself drawn to the natural world. Spending time in nature became a form of communion, a way of grounding myself in the present moment while also feeling connected to the larger whole. Whether hiking through a forest, sitting by a river, or simply gazing at the stars, I felt a sense of awe and reverence for the beauty and complexity of creation. It reminded me of the light and harmony I had seen in the other realm, a reflection of the divine presence that permeates all things. One particularly powerful moment came during a weekend retreat in the mountains. As I sat on a hillside overlooking a valley, the wind rustling through the trees, I felt a profound stillness wash over me. It was as if the boundaries between myself and the world around me dissolved, leaving only a sense of unity and peace. In that moment, I understood that the eternal tapestry was not something separate from us, it was us. Each of us is a thread, essential and unique, contributing to the beauty and strength of the whole. This realization brought a sense of liberation and humility. I no longer felt the need to strive for perfection or control every outcome. Instead, I focused on showing up authentically, trusting that even my imperfections could serve a greater purpose. It also deepened my gratitude for the journey itself, for the joys and challenges, the connections and lessons, and the opportunities to grow and contribute. As I embraced this perspective, I began to see the world with new eyes. The mundane became sacred, the ordinary extraordinary, a simple conversation, a shared meal, a quiet moment of reflection. Each carried the potential to reveal the presence of the divine, to remind me of the love and light that underpins all things. It was a way of living that felt both grounded and transcendent, rooted in the here and now while also reaching toward the infinite. In the years since my near-death experience, I have often been asked how it changed me, what lessons I took away. My answer is always the same: it taught me to love others, to love myself, to love the world and all its imperfections. It showed me that love is not just an emotion but an action, a choice, a way of being, and it reminded me that love is the thread that binds us all, the essence of the eternal tapestry. Looking back, I see how every moment, every choice, every experience has contributed to the person I am today. The challenges I faced, the relationships I nurtured, the lessons I learned, they were all part of the journey, shaping me in ways I couldn't always see at the time. And as I look forward, I feel a sense of peace and anticipation, knowing that the journey continues, that the tapestry is still being woven. For those reading my story, I hope it serves as a reminder of the light and love that exist within and around us. No matter where you are on your journey, no matter what challenges you face, know that you are an essential thread in the tapestry of life. Your presence, your actions, your love, they matter. They contribute to the beauty and harmony of the whole. And as we navigate this world together, let us remember that the greatest truths are often the simplest: to love, to forgive, to connect, and to live with purpose and intention. These are the threads that weave the eternal tapestry, the legacy we leave behind, and the gift we carry with us into eternity.